Good viewer. Watch Xirtus. Watch Xirtus.
Oh,
You all know the name. Welcome, everyone. NEUROPA Summer Edition. In Austria, they always call it Sommerloch, so the summer hole as a direct translation, where nothing much is happening in politics or anything else, so people make much ado about nothing. But this is not what we're gonna do today. We're gonna continue as always. In this case,
Weißer Jung Sommer. Sorry, I had to do it.
Come again?
Weißer Jung Sommer. Junge.
White boy summer. Yeah, very good. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we've got this show called Rien ne va plus. All bets are off. Nothing else goes. Yet we continue, and we have part 4. But today, we're gonna wrap it up.
And then this moment
gonna take a short break
for some of you,
come back.
night for others. Yeah. So this is part 2, part 3. Let me just show you at the top here. If you go back to commency.at, you can check out the log. You can click right here to see the most recent 4-part episode. Here's part 1, what we covered. Part 2, here's what we've covered. Part 3 was last week, what we covered. Tater exportation, Esoteric history, and then now we're back to part 4. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is, do women even know what they want? Crazy accurate breakdown explanation of relationships from home math. Relax, far from Eden. So yeah, this lady did the video asking if women know what they want.
Yeah, this is one thing I stumbled across recently. I wonder why YouTube chose to recommend this to me of all individuals. Yo,
what's up, McMac?
My favorite online Magic the Gathering card playing partner. Yeah, so
I pulled a good Magic card the other day.
Oh yeah,
I need to find it really quickly to show you. Hold on. Here it is. Does it show up there? Hey, hold on. There it is. Come on, click. Oh,
sweet.
There we go. The Epstein list card. There it is. I'm trying to get to play. So this is legendary artifact. The Epstein list enters the battlefield tapped with a stun counter. Exile all legendary creatures. Only the truly powerful fear its contents. Everyone else pretends it's a myth. Pretty sweet.
Nice. Well done.
Cool. All right. So anyway, you were saying.
So this is interesting, and apparently this is a recent thing. Of course, there's been all this they call it MGTOW, I think, men going their own way, and the whole, feminism overdrive, where we even have the interview between Alex Jones and what's his name? Aaron Russo, the filmmaker, who, at least by his own account, was friends with one of the Rockefellers. And then they spoke about feminism. And at least in this particular interview, the Rockefeller individual told Aaron Russo, well, of course, we invented feminism because before we could only tax half the population. And now we also get the children to educate them in our system. So of course, the whole feminism thing has been on overdrive in various waves with more or less, how should I say, logic and intuition attached to it, and more or less propagandization. And what you have now is at least some channels, but to me, most of the that seem authentic are not necessarily pushed, like this particular woman, who take an interesting view as they kind of take a more traditional perspective. And I'm not even necessarily advocating for either. What I'm mainly interested in is what is a system that actually works, where people are happy and society can progress in a good way. Why this particular video is fun is because she's looking at home math. Have you ever heard of home math, Andreas? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I've seen home math before. It's been a minute. I think this is the home math thing here, right? Updated.
So it's like she's discussing it basically, and it's kind of curious or interesting. Of course, this mainly relates to, I want to say, mainstream dating, and potentially most individuals watching this stream, this will not even really apply to them, because it's like a generic thing, where you would rate someone from 1 to 10. I mean, who really does that? And all these generic things, but still it's very interesting to see someone like her analyze this, simply because it shows differences in psychology, let's say also what may be basic differences in psychology between men and women. And then it also shows all kinds of layers and levels of propagandization as to why then maybe certain relationships type don't work out, or why, again, I'm only talking for generic mainstream dating ideas, certain individuals always get friend zoned, or how all these tricks and games work. For me, most of that is, how should I say, superfluous and a joke anyways. If individuals can't be authentic, what do you want to do with them anyways? But still, it can help to understand some broader societal streams, ideologies, propagandizations, and behavior patterns. And at least on some level, I would say, they pull up, that's interesting, they just pulled up spiral dynamics. I didn't even know that. Can you go back a few seconds? Yeah. They totally use spiral dynamics. That's funny. I wasn't even aware that this guy is using that. That's a system I think has some credence to it. We actually spoke about it on the terrorist podcast briefly a week or two ago. Cool. So it's actually looked into Ken Wilber, I guess, and some other things. Anyways, something that if someone would want a different perspective, something you can totally check out.
My only contention is home math has very feminine hands, but you know what? That's fine. I'm just saying.
That's the next level.
Okay, but did I skip the page here? Yeah. So this is her breakdown, her discourse on.
Right, that's she basically discussing on some of the basic things home math talks about, and she's giving some further insight. And it seems, to me at least, she seems pretty genuine and authentic, because she's also relating like, oh, this and that type of pattern behavior I knew from myself when I was younger, and later I realized maybe that's not the most conducive to a happy relationship or a happy life. So I just think it's, interesting to have some, let's say, counterbalance to the generalistic and most likely overly simplistic ideas of feminism, for lack of a better term. So basically asking the question, does this really make women happy? How do men operate? How do women operate? What are the issues that occur because of the current level of brainwashing? How to do it differently? What are the insecurities of men and women? Things like that.
Yeah. I mean, this comes up a lot because what they feel one day could change another day. Not to get all like misogynistic right in a second, but I'm just saying, like,
no, but even here, on a basic level, and I'm just a guy from what I as far as I know.
You're just
So
a
so
man.
I'm only aware of one particular modality, or whatever you generally get biologically ingrained, which I guess generally one would say for men is more rational, for men would be more intuitive, and both of course have their place and their powers. But just like with astrology or with human design or others of these systems, the more you try to understand potentially different modes of operation, some of which may even be somewhat generic to men or to women, it can also help alleviate some misunderstandings which would otherwise occur if you're assuming, oh, this female individual should come at it from the same place as me as a male individual, when maybe even biologically to a certain extent there are simply very basic differences. And then instead of allowing yourself to be brainwashed and propagandized to get it all twisted up, to properly understand it and to be able to communicate then to both men and women, and achieve whatever happy relationship or useful society you want.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I think it's only applicable for one moment, because as soon as it's no longer beneficial, then you have to find a new way of looking at it. That seems like the feminine intuition is like, if it doesn't feel like positive or proactive, then the definition can change or the meaning can change. I mean, and that's not to say this about like a woman necessarily, but like just like the emotional intelligence is different than the rhetorical or the logical intelligence. Not that like men are logical or that women, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I feel like we're using really finite or rigid concepts here, but I can see how this can be really complicated, like because people are trained with there's a certain biological imperative to look at things differently in order to see which is,
Right.
that we have multiple ways of looking at something. And that's probably the value of a family nucleus, is having someone with age and experience, someone with, like a child has new optimism versus like the cynical parent. There's like the fearful look of a mother and father, and like the guiding look, right? These are different perspectives that we use to come together with some theos or shared lens. But okay, here's another one: hot girl summer.
Oh yeah, right. So that's also, I think I also watched this one actually, and this is just kind of curious because here, what all she's bringing up here, and of course I can't vouch whether the examples she brings are representative of anything, but she's just saying, oh, here instead of thinking about whatever, to sound misogynistic or whatever, what bikini to buy or I don't know what, this woman in particular is looking to enter a monastery for a week to do a vow of silence. And far from me then here is just discussing how curious that is, how this perspective has shifted, that suddenly this is something that is interesting for women, because then this girl on the left is explaining basically that all the spots in the monastery, when previously they were very flexible, and now it's like they're all booked up. And that's, of course, something quite interesting. Why would suddenly many women want to do a vow of silence? Of course, it can be a great thing. I'm just saying it's kind of curious.
Mm-hmm. Hot girl summer, for the love of God. Okay, and then South Africa, the land of Elon Musk.
I mean, I think the whole thing was already summarized by the first frame you showed. It was like US AIDS. And here, yeah, oh my God, I remember now what this is about. This is about medication for AIDS, I guess.
Oh, the
And
revenge of Elon Musk is AIDS medication or just AIDS?
no, well, the revenge here, the way they frame it, if I understand correctly, would be that due to some things Elon Musk did, I don't know, remember the exact details of this documentary anymore, but basically the idea of, oh, how poor are these individuals in South Africa now because some funding got slashed, I believe even US aid funding, and what does it do? It slashes your AIDS medication. And people would have had to watch other shows we did to understand my stance on this. But let me just say that much of this medication is based on questionable assumptions. And of course, all medication, pharmaceuticals, pretty much all of it has mild to very severe side effects. So I just think it's kind of, this, I don't know how to say this, typical New World Order propaganda. They're like, oh, look, this bad guy Musk, who may well be a bad guy and an actor and an idiot. I don't care about that. But basically saying, oh, they just slashed the US aid funding. And what's the worst problem that occurred because of it? People cannot get this super amazing AIDS medication anymore without, of course, asking any further questions about where is this coming from? How does this really originate? What are the 100 million things we could do that people can still be healthy, even though they may be diagnosed with this or that ailment? Well, yeah, I think this is mainly about US AIDS and how evil Trump Musk is for the Doge thing. But of course, this is already past now because they broke up on the world stage, at least. Yeah.
Oh, you still can't talk about ivermectin, right? Like that's still banned. We're not supposed to talk about that, basically. Okay.
Well, I have to say, I'll just say one thing. Even here, from what I understand, many of the alternative supposed treatments, some of which were also mentioned by Rogan, I believe, at least from the research I could do, also some of these may actually not be so great for mid or long-term use. And if maybe only for emergency use, they also have side effects, because actually there is even simpler things. One of the things we spoke of is, of course, only used PSA for water treatment originally by the US military, natrium chloride and an acid. This is from Jim Humble, called Mineral Miracle Solution. But
You've
that
seen the
would
video,
even be
don't
something.
drink bleach, right?
Right,
You gotta watch that
exactly,
video.
yeah.
Don't
Right,
drink
exactly.
bleach, everybody. Don't do
Exactly.
it. Don't drink the bleach.
So anyhow, without going further into this or making any allegations or assertions, this Mineral Miracle Solution, which she's talking about here, for example, is something that is so amazingly cheap, you cannot even profit from it, really. And also it's something that you cannot even patent at all. So there's not even something like ivermectin to say, oh, it has a brand name or something like that. It just doesn't have that. And that was something that did not really get promoted, neither by the mainstream nor by any alternative
Good.
big sources.
We don't want our kids drinking bleach.
Don't drink bleach. Watch that video. Exactly.
I need to know more about him. So here's his website. I know this old kook has his email address on here somewhere. And boom, there you are. Help, I fed my baby too much bleach. Now he's not breathing. How much bleach should I feed him to bring him back from the dead until I can get him baptized? And then right away start feeding the bleach kid, because I want him to go to heaven, not hell. God bless you, Jim Humble. You old dumb fuck.
Yeah, so don't drink bleach. There's a lesson there for the YouTube censors. Okay, so then here you have Toxic Prosperity with Neil Zhu.
Right, this is maybe even just a 1-minute thing. If you want, we could even listen to it. I think this talks about, I may have also brought this up on a terrorist podcast, this whole idea of shifting factories and whether you actually want to reindustrialize the West, or how you would want to do it. Let's see what he has to say.
Okay.
Bring the manufacturer back to America, right? Let's talk about it. How about the pollution?
Where
you guys think all those factories coming back without any consequences?
Yeah, what are you, idiots? Stop it.
You're going to get a smog. You're going to breathe in the fine particles, those toxic fine particles.
You're going to get acid rain. You know that it can't rain. Nothing can grow for like 10 or 15 miles.
Acid rain.
Nothing can grow for like 10 or 15 miles around the factories in China that produce the lithium batteries. And how about lithium extraction? Have you been to Chile? Have you seen what they've done to that place? Because you want a friggin' Prius to save the environment? You hypocrite, you charlatan, just come on.
The ones that never gonna come out of your lungs. And it's gonna end up in your water, your soil, eventually gonna end up in your food. You're gonna consume them.
Yeah, you are.
You know what? That means cancer. In the 90s, China had about 1 million pollution-related cancer cases a year. Now, it's over 4 million every year. My mom, she is a 4-ton cancer survivor, 4-ton for the last 20 years.
Yo, crazy.
I believe pollution played a big part in that. You know what?
Conspiracy.
Chinese medical system helped her, saved her. Both sides gone. Thyroid gone. Half of the ovary gone. So are you ready for that? I'm not talking about just you. It's not about you. It's always about the people around you, your family, your parents, your kids, your
Bro, why would you want to warn people? Like, move it off so that you guys can have organic China now. You know, maybe it's your turn to like stop giving your mom ovarian cancer, and then like now we can, you know, maybe now it's time for Texans in Detroit to get it again. What are you even doing, Neil?
neighbors, your friends. It's really hard when you seeing them rolling around in pain on bed because of chemotherapy. You're gonna say, "Oh, we're gonna use green tech, less pollution." That's right, but it's very expensive, and that means less profit. You think they're gonna do it? I believe they're gonna cut corners or do nothing, because pollution control does not sell stock. There's a cost to progress. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's deadly. Bring the manufacturer.
Oh, you muted Andreas.
Well, I wanted to pull up Brian Johnson because I don't know if it's fully related. Brian Johnson, I have microplastics in my ejaculate, 2 times the concentration than that of my blood. Everybody's got microplastics everywhere, but he realized it's double in your ejaculate. So maybe the way to get rid of it is to jerk off. I don't know. I'm not as not medical advice to get rid of microplastics by masturbating, but it could be. I don't know. It might not be. I don't have an answer. It's just a question. 2 times the concentration, plus 167 microplastic particles in 1 milliliter of ejaculate versus 70 microplastic particles in 1 milliliter of blood. Ejaculate levels are 238% higher than blood. This was in November 2024. A meta-analysis of 36 studies found that microplastics disrupt testosterone production, damage testicular cells, lower sperm count and motility, and increase sperm DNA damage. Right? But like, where's that mean? 30 in 1970, 30 in 2020. This is the meme. There's like a picture of it. Basically, this guy is probably like 1,000 years old, and you know, I mean, where's the picture, dude? I lost it. It doesn't matter. I think people look younger now, and it's probably has nothing to do with the microplastics, right? Couldn't possibly. I don't know. Well, I mean, xenoestrogen.
Nice and smooth.
Xenoestrogen, like, plastics are not causing any sort of effects, right? We're good. We're cool. Everybody's cool. All right.
Exactly.
MSG.
Oh,
I love
okay,
my
look.
MSG.
So
Yeah,
look,
what
I'm
you got?
gonna put something up right now. We're totally gonna do the ad right here. Let's see.
Sweet.
You can
sweet.
pull up this from the private chat. And this is now just really something I just did a web search right now because I know what I learned about it. And this is just so we can
tasty.
reference something over here. So we're talking about the garlic and the garlic extract that we brought up a few times. Everyone interested, you can check out the links below in the description. So you can show. Oh yeah,
You have yours?
Thank you. Oh,
you have your garlic?
See, here we are.
Yeah, because I got my garlic. You got your garlic? Okay. You getting garlic right now? I'm gonna get garlic right now. Let's just You ever just spray garlic in your mouth and then go hang out with people?
You know, you'll know who your real friends are.
I told you I was in an airplane and I sprayed it for my mom, my brother, and my dad.
Oh, nice.
We all 3. And then we get onto the plane and there's these like girls sitting in the front of the plane. And my dad's walking through, and I'm walking through, my brother's walking through, and we're just like, and then these girls just go like, oh my God, like their brains start to like it was just such an overwhelming odorous level of garlic. Yeah, get out, you demon. Exactly. Garlic keeps fleas away. Totally true. Basically,
it's
garlic solved all
Wi-Fi.
my This is not medical advice. This is just sort of like occult advice, but garlic solved all my problems, right? Garlic saves your love life. That's probably true. I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. As far as I can tell. Basically, some people don't like it. but the right people love it. That's what I've noticed so far. If you love them or you hate them, garlic's the answer, you know?
Right. So just because we're talking about, well, microplastics, but of course it
Mhm.
relates to heavy metal toxicity as well. So
Yeah, because they're using garlic in China to leach out chemicals in the soil even. They use it
Oh, really?
literally to clean out, yeah, because they
Oh
grow
yeah,
a
and
lot
then
of the
they
garlic.
and then they sell you the trash heavy metal garlic in the California supermarket. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, buy organic, local. Yeah, basically.
Oh my God. Okay, so here just
Mm.
basically, because the idea that I had heard is just that garlic in proper extract form has the capacity, let's just very simply say, to help your body detoxify, but also on a quite, let's say, subtle and deep level. And so anyone can do research on this, even on PubMed and so on. There is so many things about garlic, about the benefits. Conspicuously, the research serendipitously stopped in about 2016. And this may have been to do with maybe I think we even spoke about this, with the starting of releasing of Allison products from China. They made some deals or something, and then were pushing Allison products. However, at the same time, apparently crazily degrading the natural qualities of garlic. And just like with tobacco, everyone can make up their own mind whether, if there is any, whether hedonistic benefit or health benefit to it, it may generally be good to look at the natural compound and extracts from the natural compounds first, rather than something that is super isolated. Just like with nicotine now in Europe, they really try to push these nicotine pouches on everyone. And already they had to introduce no legislatures because the children are going crazy on this, because it's even stronger probably than smoking regular cigarettes in terms of the nicotine rush. So yeah, something to say about that. Exactly. And the clove per day, that's actually a cool thing, which I had heard from different people. What some people do is they just eat it whole, because then apparently it's better to digest or something, and it really does keep fleas and ticks away. Or you can use this extract, which is linked below, which does similar things and just somehow has a crazy energization effect on the body and detox effect. So yeah, so why was I mentioning this? Mainly because of Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson should experiment with garlic, I think.
He has non-odorous capsules of garlic, which is like,
yeah.
bro, you're definitely missing the point.
Yeah. Because
I
that's
mean, I'm
one
not saying
thing.
it yeah.
Even because I even sent some to Jim. He finally got to him like yesterday or 2 days ago when we had the show. And also he just wrote me a message. He was like, dude, that thing is strong. I can smell it through the bottle and so on. And I'm kind of like, yeah, it really makes me wonder why the smell of garlic overall has been given such a bad reputation, because there's so many smells, and we could argue for various reasons why someone is imprinted that something smells better than something else, or is a more convenient smell. But especially with garlic, it's a little bit strange why there's such a big, let's say, prejudice against it. Instead of thinking like, oh, you smell like garlic, well, maybe, want to drink some water or whatever. But other than that, it's something good. But no, it's always seen as something
Intense.
bad or something, or
overwhelming. Yeah. It's overwhelming for things. I think that's the thing. It's probably because it literally, everyone's possessed by demons. This is just an idea. It could, I mean, I'm not saying, again, not
it's
medical
just
advice.
an idea. Yes,
You
it's
know,
just this is just a spiritual perspective.
Yeah, and then the demons are like, no, like your gut fauna is like freaking out, like, hey man, why don't you go, do evil things and eat bad food? And then all of a sudden garlic shows up and it's like, that's kind of what it feels like is going on. Because garlic controls your gut fauna, controls your brain, so garlic is probably upsetting the gut fauna, which is then telling your brain to like cower in fear. Could be wrong.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah, of course. You're definitely wrong, Andreas.
Definitely.
I'm
Definitely
gonna
wrong.
claim that as long as we're streaming on YouTube.
Good job. That's what we're working on. Okay. MSG, my favorite food. Everyone knows MSG is totally safe because of all of the Monsanto studies, right?
This is amazing. So you brought this up with this idea that it seems that a lot of Thai street food may have quite a lot of this, and at least for some individuals, this may not go perfectly well with the gut flora, and they may want to look at organic restaurants, which apparently now there's about 5% of special organic no MSG restaurants in Thailand. And since I had brought this up before, and this Uncle Roger guy who always keeps shilling for MSG, that I have to believe he's got some sponsoring contract from most likely
From
this
like some
company.
manufacturing company.
I'm pretty
MSG,
sure,
Uncle Roger.
because that's how I came to find it. I was just looking which one are the biggest MSG importers, and that's the company. But we can take a look at him.
You know, Uncle Roger's
his
like
MSG
completely.
chicken.
You know, Uncle Roger's completely fake, right? Like he's not. His accent's
Oh, yeah.
fake.
Roger don't know much about this Kuga guy, but I think he divorced because only divorced man fridge can be as empty as Kuga fridge.
Uncle Roger is a character played by what's Uncle Roger's real name again? Nigel
Yeah.
NG. Yeah. Nigel Ninja or something like that. He's from Malaysia. He has like a kind of British, you know, clean accent, but he knows how to sound like you know, someone just off the boat. That's basically his character. That's like his whole character. And so he'll talk about MSG all the time, and that's basically the ingredient that's in every fast. Well, I mean, look at that. It's like crystal meth, you know. And if you mix it with crystal meth, I'm sure it cuts well. But
and it's crazy because if he were about the umami flavor, for example, he could also be like, look, the 5 best recipes to make your own umami spice mix, completely natural and so healthy with all these great natural herbs that contain all these minerals and phytonutrients and so on. Instead, he's like, oh, take this 1 kilogram or 1 pound of MSG and fry your chicken in it. I'm not sure.
Well, I love that people used to like complain, like, I have Chinese restaurant syndrome, and then they looked it up, and then they were trying to figure out what's causing it. And once they said they think it's MSG, then they came back with the answer, which is that there's no such thing as Chinese restaurant syndrome.
Exactly.
Which is just really great gaslighting. I think that's pretty cool.
Nothing to see here. So basically, I found this company, and this may have been the primary and original MSG manufacturer. So of course, this is not a claim, allegation, or anything like this. But if I had to bet, I would bet Uncle Roger has a deal with these guys or someone related to these guys, because they are like the main big manufacturer of MSG exporting worldwide.
God, I mean, lotus flower MSG could be. Isn't it originally? It's from China, right? I mean, from Japan, right? Originally created in Japan, so I couldn't be too surprised if like they built their lab.
But somehow I think that it's in China now, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Let's see, MSG mono. Yeah, there was it right there. Monosoname. First prepared in 1908 by biochemist Kokune Ikeda, who tried to isolate and duplicate the savory taste of kombu, an edible seaweed. MSG balances, blends, and yeah, so there is kind of a connection to the sea salts, but it's a synthetic analog to a salt that's pretty much lost in nature. So it's connected to actually, I mean, you have a receptor for it, but basically everything else that's like this is just about died out. So you don't have too much access to it because just certain things that grew in the sea originally. So I don't think it's necessarily like horrible. I think there's definitely like a place for things. Adequately controlled experimental bias, placebo-controlled experimental design. People all over Asia love MSG. I don't think it's necessarily.
What study are they referencing? 2 paragraphs up.
Which one? Adequate? This one, the placebo-controlled design one?
Yeah.
One reaction to the placebo in a self-identified MSG-sensitive individual occurred. A study in 2000 tested for the reactions of 130 subjects with the reported sensitivity of MSG. Multiple trials were performed with subjects exhibiting at least 2 symptoms continuing. 2 people out of the 130 responded to all 4 challenges. Because of the low prevalence, researchers concluded the responses to MSG was not reproducible. 1993, 71 fasting participants were given 5 grams of MSG and then a standard breakfast. I mean, you know, generally I don't think MSG is like super dangerous or anything, but at the same time, it's probably worth being careful about any synthetic salts because the way salts work in your bloodstream, you know, that's all. Just a thought.
Yeah, you just
Not
may
medical
have a
advice.
point.
I could be
With about
wrong. I could be
1%
wrong.
chance, you have a
Probably
point,
wrong.
maybe.
Probably wrong. You know. Anyway, so DNA tests, das
Oh, yeah.
geschafft.
The business with genes. So this is kind of hilarious because what some of us have suspected 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, when all of this came out, these DNA kits where, you know, what is it, MyHeritage and 23andMe was the most famous one that recently got sold off to some other conglomerate or whatever. Wonder what they're doing with all that data. And here just simply showing the most basic thing, that only because you get a test and you get a certain type of analysis and then you get a certain map or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean it's entirely accurate. State border shift, cultural border shift, and all of these questions surrounding these tests. Yes, Gotthard Guardian called it total data collection. Unfortunately, I can't do much except agree with that statement. You're muted, Andreas.
I just said mein Gott. Okay.
Yeah.
World's first drug to regrow teeth enters clinical trials. Yeah, this just came out of Japan, right? I
Yeah,
just saw it
can
the
you
other day.
please explain to me why this seems to be recurring like every 10 years, that they say, oh, now we can regrow teeth, we are trying something. They also had some device which was like, I think based on resonance or electricity, and they even created a prototype, something you put in your mouth, like not a prosthesis, but like something, you know, that should stimulate your teeth or something. But instead of now having it work for actually regrowing teeth, it's just like some really small sub application. I really have the impression that the worldwide dentist lobby, or whoever is controlling global health, does not want to see people regrow teeth because it would destroy a lot of business.
Yeah,
impression.
probably. I think there's something to that for sure. But you know, there's probably some dangers and side effects, and it's probably inefficient in a sense. Like the teeth that grow are not accurate or correct. You know, they don't grow like perfect teeth, but they have had definitely some different projects. Like the front teeth of a feral treated with the tooth regrow medicine induced growth of the additional seventh tooth. So there's probably like mostly been animal testings, and there's concerns with cancer. I think in the early 2000s they had success with mice, but the mice got cancer, and you know you can't control it. It wasn't. It had other effects. Growing teeth hormones also affected bone, and which led to cancer and things like that in the mouse tests in early 2000s. So this is, I think, isn't this topical or something like that? Like you put it on the area directly, or you inject it rather into the root follicle area. But there also was even in the 30s transplanting of tooth germ from other patients, like from babies or something like that, that led to growing teeth. So there's been a lot of research in growing teeth over the century or so, more than a century. I think that there probably will end up very soon having solutions to everything. Growing teeth again, transgendering yourself in a day, whatever. Like, why not? They could pretty much do anything if they really want to. So this could happen pretty soon.
Right. Yeah, well, I'd be all for it. I'm wondering, yeah, what it is in the end they will actually offer individuals. But at least logically to me, it seems perfectly reasonable that you could have technology that helps your body, just stimulates it to regrow, certain spots, or even entire teeth. Because if the body is also some kind of consciousness or an energy field, it should contain the information of what is the appropriate configuration. That's at least my assumption or working thesis. And then if the body has enough energy and the required resources and voltage or whatever it is to actually achieve that state, then I don't see why not almost anything should heal. Because also in the teeth, what maybe many people don't know, just like within the blood, we actually have vessels. They are called microtubules. There is one great book by Ramiel Nagel called Cure Tooth Decay. That's just one perspective. And there's also recently a German company that just created some type of paste with curcumin and coconut oil, maybe even DMSO and some other things. And at least according to the feedback, several people reported that yes, small lesions and so on actually were able to heal, because it's like energizing your teeth and actually, putting the resource depots exactly on them, let's say, to kickstart some type of healing process. So why I'm just mentioning this is because many people still have the impression that teeth is that like only a one-way street, but the teeth necessarily, I would say, are just as alive as the rest of your body and have a circulatory system where, of course, and it matters whether you do have the minerals and resources available or not. And that's also why people that abuse drugs, I think it's especially heavy with things like meth or something, this has an incredible draw on your minerals inside your body. And that's why your teeth fall out, because the minerals literally can even get drawn from your bones and from your teeth. And then, of course, the teeth disintegrate. But if it goes one way, why shouldn't it go the other way? That if you have proper diet and lifestyle, at least to some extent, the teeth can stay healthy or even regenerate.
Terrorist says that he's going to open a teeth farm and they're going to grow the finest teeth, which is very cool. Yeah, it's a monoclonal antibody, which is interesting because the research of monoclonal antibodies after COVID or during COVID, I think all sorts of interesting things were discovered in that period, including suppressing the USAG1 gene benefits tooth growth. So several monoclonal antibodies for USAG1 commonly used to treat cancer, arthritis, and vaccine development. So that's kind of funny to me that one of the side effects that they found in trying to use monoclonal antibodies as a treatment for, the big V was tooth growth. That's very interesting indeed. Okay, cellular responses to egg oil.
All right, I'm happy the topic's somehow related, at least. This is something that was recommended to me many years ago by my former dentist, who literally, I want to say, was an angel from heaven, because she was an older lady when I met her. I had been to a regular dentist for quite a few years. He fixed up my teeth nicely, with the regular things you do, you put the metal braces on and things like that. And I had to go there a lot. And then I turned like 20 or something. I went again. It was more or less the first time when I wasn't covered by whatever insurance anymore. And suddenly the guy starts drilling around in my mouth. And then he's like, oh yeah, there were like 4 small lesions and I'm going to fix them up now. And I was like, I had started researching a little bit and I said, okay, what you going to do? He was like, well, I'm going to use the amalgam, which has like mercury in it and things like that. There is more to say about this, in what instances this may even be okay if they are really well done. But generally speaking, of course, those can leak and they can cause all kinds of potentially horrendous issues for your health, which you may not even be able to understand before you check and see, do I have any type of these implants? For some people, it really has a heavy detrimental effect. So of course it was like, no, my dear old classical dentist, not going to do that. What other options do we have? And it was like, well, we have composite, which is like a plastic, which again can be okay, but also could pollute your body. It was like, well, that's $30 a piece. 4 lesions, 4 times 30, it's $120. And I was just like, oh, isn't that amazing? I can hardly turn an adult and already I'm being turned into an effing cash cow for the dentist, even though previously to that he did nice work. So I was just like, oh, well, I'm very sorry, but I have to get up now. Of course, there was a commotion. And it was like, oh, you have to sign this, sign. I'm like, I have no problem. I'll sign it, goodbye. And then I found this, angel lady dentist. As a holistic dentist, I called several ones, and she was the one who actually called me back on her own. And instead of talking to a receptionist who basically tells me, oh, the very first checkup, it's at least $120 and you don't get anything done even. She just called and said, oh, how are you? Just said, oh, please come by, Then I came by, she looked at my teeth and she was like, well, actually pretty okay. These small drillings that the other dentist did, they were not even necessary. So it was like overdrive, even just to do that. You don't need any fillings there at all. And here, and that's why I brought this up, I'm going to give you this toothpaste. And that was a toothpaste called Crème du Ciel. So how would I translate this properly? Well, the cream of heaven, if I use the same words. And this contains something called charismon, or they call it factor X, which seems a little strange because it's extracted from egg yolk, if I understand correctly. And this also has applications for salves against burns, whereas apparently they have very good results for quick tissue regeneration. So that was one of the things that she recommended to me. But actually, just as we're on it, I'm going to show the other thing as well, since we're talking about tooth health. Just so you can show the example. Yes, here we have it. I'm posting it in the private chat. Here we are.
Okay.
chicken eggs.
Fix for vital liposomal. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is interesting and just may also be an inspiration for anyone, because of course you can also do your own toothpaste. Even here, there is actually an application with the water-soluble garlic tincture that we got linked below, where you can actually mix that with coconut oil, with curcuma and other things, because the garlic tincture is also really good for your teeth, because I guess it's, you know, tidies up your mouth flora, right? So here, this can be an interesting inspiration. There's mugwort inside, silica, different other things. So you could even just recreate this formula on your own if you don't want to order it. But that's an interesting site because it also has quite a few reviews. And if I am to assume that this is a somewhat small, honest vendor, the reviews are pretty good. I've been using it for some time, but also generally ever since using the garlic tincture and now also this, I don't actively have any teeth issues, I can say. So
Interesting. This is very cool. All right. I know some people that would love to look into this. I'll have to.
Oh,
I know someone was
definitely.
complaining about their non-fluoridated toothpaste and they wanted to go back to fluoridated toothpaste. I was like,
Oh shit.
maybe you should look into some other things. They were using some weird one too, like the Tom's one or something. I forget. Like one of the ones like from New York that are just happen to be organic, but not much better. Not like the coconut stuff. Or I use this one now. This you can't even see it. It's called Leave Fresh, right? And it's got no fluoride, and it has I forget what's like the sulfonyl bismuthane or something like that. I forget, but it works really well. That's another one. It's also like using organic chemistry.
Just think of it to yourself. Would you want to spend a few hours researching this and maybe a few dozen or maybe even a few $100 on that, if it can help you to have less dentist visits? Because I mean, I can only imagine in the US, but also in Austria, if you want a really good dentist, that's why many people go to Hungary because it's cheaper. It is very expensive. And if this can be, you know, delayed or lessened just a tiny bit by any type of supplements, that's definitely the route I would want to go instead of having someone drill around in my teeth. And yeah, especially with root canals and so on, these are things, if possible, to be avoided.
Yeah, I think coconut oil leaching, where you use like put it in your mouth for like a minute at a time, is pretty cool.
See, this is the goal. You got to leave that comment. This is we know when we're done right, if it's so entertaining that we can advertise things that we actually like, and people are like, yes, more advertisement. No, so we've shown it. The one thing is the Graf von Kronenburg Zahnfix. That's a German thing. But you can order it in the US as well, I'm pretty sure. Just go back like 5 minutes, you can see it. Graf von Kronenburg Zahnfix. The other thing is this Live Fresh, which Andreas just showed, and the garlic tincture is linked below with a discount code, which you can also just generally helps teeth, but you could even use it again to do your own toothpaste as well.
So we have Graf von Kronenburg is pretty cool because it sounds like, you know, the filmmaker.
It sounds like royal something, yeah.
Well, there's also, you know, Cronenberg, but it's spelled differently. But like I think of David Cronenberg, the filmmaker who made The Fly and Scanners, and you know, Cronenberg. I love Cronenberg. He's great. He makes all these weird movies with like prosthetic monsters and stuff. He's awesome. Videodrome, you know. Okay.
So just to briefly answer gums, same answer from what I understand. I was told my gums are pretty good for some reason. Maybe because I'm using the garlic tincture. No, I'm sure it's diet. It's many other things. I think it's, again, both with teeth and the gums, it's about the health in your again, mouth bacteria, flora. I always want to say
Mhm.
fauna. Is it fauna or flora? Maybe both, whatever. And of course, the more you can keep that mineralized, and what's also really important, look at any foods that are alkaline, and also, of course, look at very high quality, if you can, doesn't have to be expensive, just the right ones, water filtration that actually increases the mineral count and increases the alkalinity, because the more alkaline, again, your mouth flora is, the better chances you have.
Mistopheles, it's the way to remember is it's gut
Yes.
it's gut fauna and mouth flora. Although there is gut flora as well, but you think of there's more gut fauna living in your gut. There's more, you could say, animal. There's like micro.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's
But aren't
definitely the same
they
in your mouth. But you
bacteria
have gut
small
flora.
animals? I'm not sure. Flora, fauna, whatever it is. You
Sure.
guys can choose.
Mouth flora, gut fauna. Yeah, exactly. See, yeah. Shout out to Manifestopheles. You guys just did a show the other night. That was really great. I wish I was there. But, you know, you guys did an amazing job. It was always fun to watch you. I was doing another show at the same time, so
Right.
couldn't miss his Doubtfire. I was
Manifestopheles
like running back and forth. You know?
was on Team Rabbit Hole, but you can see it on Xirtus channel on live. Yes.
Very good stuff. Very good stuff indeed. So then here is Arizona Wilder on shape-shifting reptilians.
And do you know who she is?
No, but she looks like she's Dana or Scully from X-Files.
Yeah, may as well be. So since, of course, we had the very interesting interview with David Icke recently, I somehow stumbled across this by reading through the comments, and somebody mentioned her, so I was looking her up, and then I was like, oh, interesting. This may well be the origin point of the whole reptilian shapeshifting idea. This is only a half an hour excerpt of like a 3-4 hour presentation that David Icke did. So anyone who's interested in his research, you may want to check this out. And also, I believe the very next link is the 4-hour presentation where he is sharing his insights, his perspective, and you have this interview with her as well. So just anyone who's wondering, where does this idea come from? It seems to also, to a substantial extent, come from her witness testimony. Whether you believe it or not, of course, is up to you.
Well, I believe it. Okay. And then Revelations of a Mother Goddess.
Yes, this is just the whole interview with the whole presentation by David. 3 hours. But this is from the 90s, you have to imagine, right? So pretty crazy. And he's just talking about the regular things, regular things. I mean, the power structures. He's talking about the media and the government, how they're intertwined, how they work together. And then adds in this witness testimony by Arizona Wilder, who apparently, supposedly, either was vanished or killed a few or not long after this interview, supposedly, but I haven't done the deep dive research into that yet, so I can't say for sure. But certainly some of the things she says remind you of different science fiction movies, so now we can speculate whether fiction informs reality or reality informs fiction.
Her information's been wiped, removed, can't find her. Search on Yandex, it will pop up. Really? There might be something in the Russian Yandex search engine to find it. She's disappeared, wiped. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, we're gonna have to look into her for sure. Hey, Anatoly Fomenko interview with Sergey again. Very good.
Yes, Serge translating these interviews. I can only repeat myself anytime I listen to this guy, even in the English translation, which is very well done. I'm like, wow, how logical and reasonable can someone be? How calm in explaining their theories. I'm amazed anytime. This is just a really short one. And I think here he's just talking about, again, this idea of a shattered empire, dare I say, which even is the storyline in Game of Thrones, in the game, which I sometimes like to play, called RimWorld, where you have the ancients. It's in Stargate, or Stargate Atlantis, where you have the ancients. So many science fiction tropes use this idea of a empire that was somewhat destroyed and the remnants are lying around. And this is the idea he's proposing here as well, and basically saying, yes, we are used to thinking about medieval history as so many differing kingdoms and all of that. But could it actually be that they all were subsumed in some type of, dare I say, Tartarian old world empire, for lack of a better term? And this is just a very short interview with him, but really great. Again, I can recommend everyone to check out these interviews and to send them to anyone who's even remotely interested in this, because I think they were the very best foray from the authority and originator of the new chronology, Anatoly Fomenko, and of course also Gleb Nosovsky.
So good. Sweet. All right, I gotta watch this one too. Basically, he just keeps doing great stuff, and like the views are so low, and everyone loves talking about Tartaria, but they never go back. They're always mentioning Fomenko, but then they never go back to Fomenko. It's crazy how many videos you see from like QAnon researchers that don't just go to the source on the research. Is what it is.
Even though they should know that, even though they should know that Russia isn't only bad, right?
My God, no, Russia, naughty Russia. What am I supposed to say?
Okay, here, important question. Wasn't Fomenko's work funded by the Soviet regime? Of course.
Do you understand how the Soviet Union worked? That do you get it? Like the whole Soviet Union paid for everyone in the Soviet Union to work for the Soviet Union. Like every university is run by the Soviet Union, every business was run by this. Do you get it? Just so you know. Yeah, for a while there, he worked as a teacher, as a university professor for a Soviet university. So this isn't the gotcha moment you were looking for, I don't think. But yeah, for sure.
That, but also there's been a comment. I cannot, of course, know for certain who wrote it, but I think it would have been Fomenko or Nosovsky. I saw this only as maybe a comment or a post on YouTube, but it was something along the lines, the headline was, because every story wants to be told. And here is basically, or they're addressing the question of what their relationship was with the Soviet government. And if I recall that post correctly, simply stated that at some point, I want to say in the 70s or 80s, they had a meeting with maybe not the Politburo, but whatever adjacent regulatory agency was responsible for their work. And they had a talk with them, and they basically agreed and said, well, yeah, we have no problem with you continuing your research. However, either through a direct order or just through circumstance, it was pretty clear that they best do not want to touch, let's say, the last 100 years because it's too political.
Sure.
But aside from that, they were basically given free rein. From what I understand, they were not necessarily supported officially with big grants or anything, although I really don't know. This was a huge project, the new chronology. But at the very least, they were allowed to continue, let me say. And other than that, all I can say to anyone who's wondering whom to trust, just look at it. Look at all the duplication we recently had on Michael Anthony Alberta, Portrait of a Spy Master, who also, just like Fomenko, talks about the duplication of medieval or ancient figures, then having the same name 1,000 years later in 1500, same stories, all these copies of the medieval empire duration of reign or of rulership, and the different kings having similar names. I mean, in my mind, it wouldn't make sense if that was something completely organic. And if there is something to this, then there is a mathematical guideline we can use at least to determine the probability of these stories actually being true. And then I'm very sorry to say, whatever Fomenko says, to me at least, appears a lot more reasonable and explains a lot more things than whatever the standard Western super compartmentalized perspective on history gives us.
Right. I mean, I feel like, Aaron, just go watch it and see what you think yourself, because you're asking about, like, how do you know it's believable or just like not propaganda or something like that. But yeah, if you recognize too many patterns in a single day, this schizo-demon overtakes you. It could be true. I think if you just look into this stuff, you'll see why it makes a lot of sense that, and it was practical that the Soviet Union, Russia didn't use the Gregorian calendar until the 1920s. Like literally about 100 years ago, they started using the same calendar. So because of that, for a long time, they were using a different calendar, whilst the West was using a calendar that was designed to hide what happened in Istanbul, right? The Mehmet II and the East-West schism between the Catholics and the Orthodox, and justifying the Catholic superiority by saying that they have this older calendar. By the 1920s, they had all of these examples of false chronological events that they're demonstrably false. You know for a fact that the pseudo-Isidore decrees are just coffee-soaked pieces of paper written 1,000 years later. Let me see if I can get to the English translation for you, right? Conventional name for the unknown Carolingian era author behind an extensive corpus of influential forgeries, right? So we know for a fact that the forgeries accomplished this goal in part by aiming to expand the legal jurisdiction of the Bishop of Rome, right? There's plenty of evidence that the Bishop of Rome is the Pope. So I mean, this is normal. People know
there's
this.
even
Like-
for Austria, like one of the foundational documents of Austria, something patent in a German pronunciation or way of saying it, was even also very officially forged. You probably even know what I'm talking about. Some type of patent which was given to allow the establishment of Austria somewhere in the medieval period or something like that. And then now, even though they still have the document or something, even in official mainstream history, they say, yes, this was just forged up to make a greater claim. Even though all that story may also in itself be manufactured history, but even in mainstream history, they're telling you, oh, we're forging documents, we're making things up. So
no, I mean, like they can't hide it at a certain point, but it's so long ago that nobody cares anymore. Yeah, you quit believing all published works as long as tiny hats own the publishing companies. Yeah, I mean the cardinals, the archdiocese wear tiny hats. That's true. I know you meant another group, but it's true. The Catholics definitely have tiny hats too. And the point being that in the 1920s, there were just so many because if you forge something once and then everyone believes it, you forge something twice, whatever. Eventually, you get to the point where in the 1920s, the Russians are looking at this, saying, "Okay, yeah, we're cool. We're gonna we got to get one calendar together." The Freemasons took over Russia, by the way, after Catherine the Great with her son Pyotr, because they basically took him and wouldn't let his mother see him, and had Freemasons raise him. And the Livonian Swiss Confederate Freemasons who were associated with the American 1770s, same time as the American Revolution, all of these Freemasonic republics were rising up after the collapse of the Jesuit Republic in Paraguay. So they're like, okay, well, we got to just build Freemason republics everywhere. So they're okay with this by the 1920s. You know, like they're totally like, yeah, we're going to use the same calendar. That wasn't the problem. The problem was when they started trying to align the calendar and they realized that it just couldn't jive because one calendar was so full of inconsistencies and their calendar was a lot less inconsistent because they only had, maybe there were some forgeries in the Russian calendar. Maybe there is some propaganda for sure. It's totally plausible that there's something wrong there, but trying to figure out where events fit, it seemed like there were just thousands of forgeries and falsehoods in the Jesuit-controlled Gregorian calendar that just weren't compatible with the Jewish calendar, the Islamic calendar, the Eastern Slavic calendar. So eventually they said, okay, we're just going to use the calendars that we think have the most data, and we're going to try to figure out where they fit. And then, you know the story. Fomenko goes and figures out that these many births and deaths in a row of these kings are identical to these births and deaths of these kings. They have holidays even to celebrate the births of these particular leaders and everything. And they said, okay, well, then this is crazy. We need to start trying to figure out how to align these things. This was done before the Soviet Union originally. I think there was even the 1890s. They were starting to try to find a compatibility because they wanted to use the Gregorian calendar. It just was almost impossible to do. And by the 1920s, after 1917, in Lenin's period, the Soviets were like, okay, we really got to get this going. We're going to start figuring this out. And this is before Fomenko, and then they just said, okay, look, there's something clearly going on here. And is there a benefit to saying that the Catholics lied about the calendar? Well, there probably wasn't originally. But now, if you look at the Eastern Orthodox and Patriarch Kirill and the Eastern Orthodox Christian, basically as a front for the FSB, right? Because they're just running safe houses for the FSB, like the current KGB of the Russian state. I mean, it is what it is. Like you can look into it and see it.
Like they say with CIA, KRS-One would sing, criminals in action. Others would say Catholics in action.
I was going to go there. Yeah, for sure. So CIA and the Catholics and the Russians and the Eastern Orthodox, because everybody needs to have some sort of, I mean, Scientology, Mormonism, they're all associated with people that are allegedly not doing drugs, that are reliable, that are decent kids that they can get to use to be agents, right? And then they've got really innocuous looking safe houses all over the world. It's very practical. I'm not trying to pretend there isn't a benefit there, but the calendar seems like a Catholic inclusion thing. Absolutely. That's exactly the point. And that's why I think it's valuable to look at Fomenko's work, because he's not so interested in the Catholic Arch, and he's a little too old to give a damn about the Eastern Orthodox Church. You know, but it benefits Putin? Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't say it totally benefits Putin necessarily, because as we've talked about, Moscow wasn't really established as the major city that we think it is, and it was a collapse, even according to some of these religious groups. I know Ireland's Aryans, is that what you're going with? That's pretty good. The Aryans of Ireland. All right, I like it. He's talking about the Scythians come from the Isle of Skye. So they have a whole thing that Jerusalem was in Moscow. The Aryans, I'm going to say, have an idea that the Emerald Isle was also Jerusalem, right? I think that's where you're going with this, Ireland. I think that you can say that probably about a number of places. The Danites call themselves the kings, the czars, the Khazars. We should definitely, at some point, Irian, reach out through X or Instagram or somehow exert a Gmail, talk to us. Like, it'd be fun to talk to you more about your perspectives on this. I know we've talked to Flat Earth British before, and Martin Liedtke definitely has a lot of similar information over the years. This was something that we focused on a lot more in the past, but I think it's worth bringing back up. So do reach out, do have a cup of tea. So stealing Africa, the AIDS scam. Back to Africa, an AIDS scam.
Right, we're back to Africa. Scroll in a little bit so I can remember the content of this particular documentary. Obviously it relates to the Oh yeah, right. So in this case, this is about a copper plant where it seems the copper plant claims they are following regulations, but only of the local, I believe, Zambian authority, like the local Zambian Environmental Protection Agency, which may of course have their very own particular rules. And when the factory owner is asked, well, isn't the pollution so and so high now because they made some measurements? All he's replying is basically, well, we are in compliance with the regulations given to us by the National Environmental Protection Agency, but not commenting on the actual levels of pollution in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, you have, of course, this illegally generated income. And the generic problem here, I think they hear that actually mostly talk about environmental pollution. But the other issue which you have, which many people are not aware of, is, and I can ask the chat, what do you think, what type of testing do you need in Africa generically to be assessed as having AIDS or HIV? From what I learned, especially in past times, I'm not sure if they still do that now, you could just as well simply have a stomach ache, a sore throat, and increased temperature. And in Africa, it would already be suspected that you may have HIV or AIDS, assuming you're an African. But this just shows that it is not a very exact science. You have other issues, for example, with the so-called ELISA test or the Western blot tests. There are great documentaries which may have brought up, for example, one is called House of Cards, which mainly is about whether or not these tests that are supposed to test for HIV, whether they are very specific. You can now guess whether they're very specific, but researching and learning about all of this certainly helped me when this whole lockdown period happened, just to be aware that especially in these fields of virology, dare I say, and biology, it is not necessarily as exact of a science as the mainstream media would love you to believe. And also, of course, there is an incredible amount of money attached to the whole thing in the back end, because through this you can also increase charity money, because you can claim, oh, they're so poor, so there is such a great AIDS epidemic in Africa. Well, why is that? It's not because of any racist idea you may be having or not. It's simply because the way they determine it there doesn't even use a test, which would be non-specific, but they can simply say, again, you have temperature, you have a sore throat and something else. Well, you're suspected to have HIV or AIDS, which then, of course, adds to the statistics and then adds to the potential grant and development aid money that they may receive. And then either, as we've shown with Musk and USAID, they're giving you some pharmaceuticals, which most likely have heavy side effects, yeah, or something along those lines. So there is a huge amount of money involved in this. I don't even know, because I don't even think they go into the testing here. That's something that I learned from other documentaries, but it's just more of a mainstream take, I guess, of how they can make money with this whole, well, here they say aid scam, not even AIDS. So it's just generically about aid and about this Glencore thing, like I said, about the mine. But it, of course, also relates back to AIDS and keeping people downtrodden, basically, through whatever means, whether brainwashing, pollution.
That's why they call it
is.
AIDS, probably. Because you need AIDS. Okay. At Oklahoma, the most conservative Bible state documentary. Interesting. That's a weird. The word conservative has become more and more strange to me, because what does that really mean? But okay, so this is a conservative Bible state, and also which Bible? The King. So this is like a Baptist Freemason state, right? That's kind of what we're trying to get at. Okay, what's the point of this one?
Oh, I simply stumbled across this because once you start watching documentaries online about different countries, you keep getting these recommendations. Then I thought, well, why not also look at that? I think it also talks about Roe versus Wade and this whole thing, and also about how apparently in Oklahoma, children at the age of 4 learn how to shoot a gun. I just found it's interesting, especially, of course, for a European, maybe even for an American who's not exactly aware of locally differing cultures. Can be fun to check out.
Mind your jizness, controlling pussies because you can't get none. Wow, really like hyper educated women. I remember when I was in Chile, the woke mind virus had just spread, because Chile used to be a pretty nice conservative place, and people were starting to get more like this. I remember all these women and college kids I went to the college because I love hanging out at colleges, and they couldn't get to class. I was like, what's going on? Like, yeah, for the last couple of weeks, we haven't been able to get to our classes that our families have paid. It's expensive, for us to be in school. We can't get to our classes because these woke mind virus kids are blocking the doors and protesting and keeping kids out of the classrooms, essentially, which was being supported by the Marxists, because a lot of Marxist professors, almost every school I've ever been to, you got a bunch of Marxist professors. So they're encouraging this so they don't have to work. And no one protests on a Saturday, so like it's the Monday and the Wednesday and like the finals weeks that they're trying to make it impossible for these kids to get their schoolwork done. So they can't even pass their test. And there's like girls taking, like, they're defecating and urinating, like literally. Yeah. What else it does, Mike, is it gives them male pattern baldness. I mean, I could be wrong, right? I'm probably wrong. I'm wrong. I'm definitely wrong. There's nothing wrong with taking birth control. Anyway, these women are definitely not super geniuses either. I'm not saying that like they're like hyper intelligent or something, but you get emotionally charged and then you start to like make it impossible for other people to exist. I thought it was really crazy though that they were like peeing on the ground on the steps, basically, because like, okay, now your parents have paid for you to go to this school. They put like $30,000, which is a lot of money for Chilean, into you going to the school. And what are you doing? You're missing classes, making sure other people miss those classes so you can piss all over the ground and say what? That you don't have enough privileges? Aw, poor you, right? Like, crazy.
Well, isn't that what they supposedly do on most US campuses anyways? Just getting drunk? At least that's the media which I received.
But
But
at
here,
least if you're
what's
getting drunk and you're having a good time and you're not stopping people from having classes, like I don't mind if someone hoses down the
sure,
like
I mean,
over the weekend. Like if you're gonna get drunk at school over the weekend, fine. But like just don't block the Asian kid from getting to his programming class. Like, come on. Like, what did he do? It's ridiculous.
yeah, what's a bit crazy or whatever is here, they also have this one lady who's a nurse in a abortion clinic, and just when they doing this documentary, apparently this is getting banned in Oklahoma. And then what's kind of curious is that she's even, I think, leaving her wife in this case. I guess this would be a
Cool.
same-sex marriage or something, just to move to the States.
Probably a no-sex marriage. Am I right, fam? Oh, sorry.
To move to the adjacent. Well, I just hear that, like, supposedly in lesbian households there's the highest prevalence of domestic violence
Abuse?
or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever, wherever that is exactly coming from. But anyways,
femininity is violence. Yeah.
this
true.
woman moving to an adjacent state just so she can continue working as an abortion clinic nurse. And yeah, I'm always trying to sympathize and empathize with individuals, because of course, as always, fight hard. There may be a time and place for this. However, I would always ask the question, which is not really getting asked, is how does this even come about? Why would anyone even need to get something akin to an abortion or even consider that? What are the 100 million things before that have gone wrong? And if it still has to exist, why don't we look at all of these causes to greatly, greatly, greatly reduce it? Because I mean, I'm not even a Bible thump or anything, and we may even be in a simulation, but still I would say ideally, if a human life already is gestating, I guess there's a reason, and it'd be great if you don't terminate it. And I'm not going to tell anyone what to do, but these are just things to consider. Again, what are all the choices that have led up to this, that now it's so important that we have all of these clinics and it's such a big business?
Well,
aside
now it doesn't
even
matter.
from the
We don't need to worry about these. We don't have to worry about these woke feminists on their birth control with their male pattern baldness and their lack of sex drive. Don't worry, because now we've got Japan's artificial wombs, a neonatal medicine breakthrough. Look at this guy right here. See, you can actually put a fetus right in there. So this should be. I think this should be like the compromise very soon. Is that you have to turn your baby fetus if you want an abortion. You can't really abort it. You can just have it, evicted. You can evict instead of terminate. And that, then you have to hand it over to the state. You hand your fetus over to the state,
of course,
which has privatized corporate wombs. And then that baby can be injected with all sorts of interesting adenoviral antibody monoclonal treatments. And you'll have little super soldiers, and it'll be great, right? That's the future right there. Sweet. Yeah. Okay. So then Scamtartica.
Yeah, so I only watched this on the flyby. I can't even recount all the ideas, but just for the continuing saga of the investigation of the shape of the Earth. This is a 3.5-hour video, again, in response to the final experiment at Antarctica. Anyone who's interested in this may want to check it out. Steve Falconer, whose channel this is, has done at least 2 videos on this previously. Also, Steve Falconer, by the way, is doing music with Conspiracy Music Guru, for anyone who knows him, who is featured on the most exclusive, amazing NASA McMoon tapes, which I will never tire to mention. Yeah, so anyone interested in the Earth shape research can check this out.
Very nice. Is the Bible from heaven? Is the Earth a globe? Alex Gleason, 1893. Worth checking this out for sure. Okay, and then Radium Girls, which we've talked about before. I always love the Radium Girls, and the energy drink, the Radium energy drink. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm sure you spoke about this a lot. That's kind of also why I'm bringing it up, because recently online, just with one friend, was this whole question about nuclear energy and nuclear this and that, and the Radium Girls were used as an example in the argument, basically to solidify the idea that radiation and nuclear energy and nuclear bombs in the way we understand them today are as dangerous as the mainstream claims. But my issue is I don't even exactly know the story of the Radium Girls, so I thought I'd just put it there because I kind of remember that you know a lot about it. So maybe you can just give me the lowdown or the rundown on this.
I mean, I'd say definitely watch our let's see if I go to YouTube, Xirtus, Radium Girls episodes. Radium. We have Dr. Longo, so you're not going to show up on Radium Tales from the Periodic Table, Radium Girls Astrosophy. That was one right there that we did at one point talking about the history of radium. We had another one with Dr. Longo. Basically, the thing that's interesting about radium, and also Bernie was there because Bernie lives pretty close to the radium hot springs. Well, I guess the first way to start is that the Florida Radium Fountain of Youth. So National Geographic, Disney's National Geographic has this article, Florida's radioactive fountain of youth may prolong life. So everyone talked about going to Florida to find the fountain of youth. And here's this little fountain that looks completely disgusting, but it's just copper and bronze, and it's actually just shoots out radium water.
Right, I remember this, yeah.
And people live a lot longer in that area. So then they look into other places with radium. There's a place in Canada, near where Bernie's from, where they swim and bathe in radium hot springs, and the life expectancy there is a lot higher. So the more you dig into it, the more evidence that radium is actually good for you, which is kind of surprising for a lot of people who were taught that nuclear, atomic, radioactive material is going to, necessarily, obligatorily kill you, like without any exception, right? You have to just be completely worried about it all the time.
And of course, just have to bring up the story in, I guess, also the Quran, maybe also the Bible with Solomon and the idea of boiling water, and still the open question whether modern nuclear power plants are some sort of repurposed ancient technology, for lack of a better term.
I mean, they are just steam engines after all. But the power of radium for health, well, I was always taught about this as a kid, but as kind of it was inverted the way it was taught to me, like a lot of things, that people were so dumb, people were so stupid that they thought this newfangled thing, radium and radioactive isotopes, that they would be healthy to ingest, and that this was killing a bunch of people. But when you look into that, there's actually a lot less evidence that people were being killed by radiation. In fact, a lot of the people that were being killed by radiation were dying of other things. And we now have this double standard where we say, well, it's totally okay to live in microwave radiation, but certain kinds of scalar waves or these neutrinos that, we've just kind of decided that we are living in a world that radio is everywhere, but at the same time, we have to be very careful about inert potential radio. Anyway, these magazine commercials that we used to look at, that we used to laugh at and say, wow, how dangerous was this? They all suggest that the power of radium was a health benefit, and they were using radium to create, which were originally radium water energy drinks, right? For the radioactive energy. That's where the term energy drink comes from. People were selling energy drinks and you could get a bottle that had radium in it, and then you pour water into it, and then that would soak in the radium. And people would drink water just from anywhere that they put through a radium filter. And so this is basically going on until the 50s and 60s, the 1950s or 60s. So for about 100 years, I mean, people were doing this in the 19th century, and a lot of people were very happy. And people still go and swim in these radium hot springs and still drink from these Florida Fountain of Youth radioactive fountain. So there's questions there about what is true, but I think it's worth investigating more before saying, okay, everything we're doing today is smart, and everything they were doing in the past was
just
stupid.
To be clear, even here when the argument was made, it was about basically saying, oh, how dare you question this, because there is real people in Hiroshima or whatever whose family suffered from being attacked, when of course in this case at least, there is not even a question whether there was a war or heavy bombing, But the question, of course, is what exactly were they using? What are the exact real effects? But this is one of the examples, again, just like with HIV and AIDS, where I've also encountered this, or when you try to offer someone an alternative perspective, which may explain more things or things differently, it is rejected because the emotional charge associated with it is like, oh, how dare you? I don't want to bring, we're going to talk about Alex Jones in a second and the whole thing which tripped him up. It's like, how dare you? Someone suffered here. And because someone suffered, you're not allowed to investigate why and how exactly this individual or this group suffered and how to really prevent it. Because to really prevent it, you need to really understand what happened. But rather than doing that, you are just throwing your arms up in the air saying, oh, someone has been whatever, damaged in whatever way, and that's now why we shouldn't openly talk about this, basically, or really look and investigate what it really is, which I think is incredibly detrimental to the human collective as a whole. But yeah, everyone can do and think what they want, luckily.
Legally speaking. Nuka-Cola, yeah, exactly. Ben the Archivist also, yeah, definitely watch Analog Ben. Wait, Analog is one of our favorite friends and co-hosts, and he's done some amazing work talking about we must all think the same thing at all times. Okay, Chris.
Who knows? In a collective fractal way, maybe we somehow actually are, but we just don't realize it.
Everybody
are you
thinks like
aware
Chris.
of the entirety of your subconscious? I cannot claim I am. Oh yeah, here, this is just a video from, I think, RV Truth about the fireworks and the 4th of July. I haven't too deeply looked into this, but I can only say I would not be surprised, of course, if also this event and the whole idea of fireworks is completely coded through, yeah, what to say. Big surprise.
Interesting. They think he's calling it satanic or something. I mean, like the Chinese, I think the Tartarian Chinese association with fireworks is pretty cool. And the idea that fireworks were, you know, one of the demonstrative examples of gunpowder originally, which was invented by Buddhist monks or Zen Shintoist monks, right? It was invented by monks that were trying to, alchemists. It was invented by alchemist monks that were trying to discover the fountain of youth or the elixir for eternal life. That was the intention, and they're like, "Whoops!" Created this death sauce, right? And it just goes kaboom. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of devil symbols on fireworks and things like that. Witches with fireworks, occult symbols with fireworks. Okay, I'm not afraid of fireworks. All right, who owns the media? Can we do this one? Really? Are you gonna get some? Come on,
no, it's
really?
okay. And why we can do it is scroll down a little bit. Because, yeah, this is from Moment magazine,
in
which
Austria.
is...
Well, that's different.
Yeah, only in Austria, don't worry.
Yeah.
So this is interesting because Moment, I actually once, many years ago, met the founder of this whole, I think it's called Momentum. It's like a conference and a magazine. They are basically a socialist party front organization, you would say. And, you know, all these organizations, just like with American Heritage Foundation for the Republicans in the US and many others, you have at least a few of these institutes, of course, on a much smaller scale in Austria as well. So this would be like the socialist perspective, if you want. However, here, what they do quite properly, I would say, is show the media ownership structure in Austria. And basically, by the time you get to the end of the graph, big surprise, you have about 3 or 4 holdings that literally own all the relevant media in Austria. So you have this Dichand family, you have Raiffeisen, you have Signa, and you have this one German Funke Gruppe or something. And they literally own any relevant newspaper, radio station, and private TV station that exists in Austria, which is amazing. And it's just, I guess, a microcosm that would most likely be reflected in the macrocosm of the entirety of the world as well. But it's kind of cool because here, even though, how should I say, they are certainly politically biased themselves, I think this analysis is accurate enough in terms of just showing how incredibly concentrated the media landscape in Austria is, same as anywhere else. And also here you have Kronenzeitung, the Crown newspaper. And we had brought this up before with this comedy show Kronen newspaper was established just after the Second World War by someone who already had worked, I believe, with the British, and to me most certainly looks very much astroturfed or deliberately created. And Kronen Zeitung for many, many years was the golden child of the media landscape in all of Europe, because it had one of the highest retentions and highest viewership. But it was simply a very simple. Kronen Zeitung is like in UK you have the Sun, or what is the most basic boulevard newspaper in America? I wouldn't even know, because it's not
National Enquirer. I mean,
yeah, I was about to say, like, anything you're gonna say is gonna be sounding like a joke now, but boulevard papers will just have big pictures and scandals and this and that, and also you can generate quite a few percentages for any election as well, which why they always call the media the fourth pillar of democracy. It's checking and it's controlling and it's how do you call it? Like a comptroller, or like controlling in business, verifying everything and making sure democracy is going well. Well, I'm just so happy that you have a total of maybe 5 holding entities that basically fund the entirety of this fourth pillar. So how democratized is that? Everyone can make up their own minds about that.
Word. So someone asked where David is. Peculiar Gemini is asking where David Ewing Jr. is. You said you haven't seen him on our show in ages. We did a show with him not more than 3 months ago, right? We just recently did one about a man being made of dirt. You can watch, and we're gonna have him back. We love David. David's one of our dear friends, and he's been living his life. He has a lot of things he has to take care of in the world.
Yeah,
he's not just a
indeed.
YouTuber.
I spoke with him recently, and believe it or not, even the people are always like, oh, he only wants to sell his books or whatever, but he's got his own life. He's busy again. He had more time during the whole lockdown thing. But yes, we will resume presentations. He already mentioned to me there's a few topics he wants to talk about, which I think will be incredibly interesting. But aside from that, anyone can look up David Ewing Jr. on Amazon, and there should actually be a new book on the pyramids, about which we'll soon do a presentation. But from what I gleaned talking to him, it may very well be that the pyramids in Egypt literally are the cornerstone of the New World Order, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's trying not to sell his books. That's my conspiracy theory. So, imposter Bill Hicks. You think that Bill Hicks has been replaced again with another one?
Yeah, this is your favorite Santa Cruzian. If he's really from Santa Cruz, is Jake. I cannot say, of course, but what is interesting is that Jake is pretty good at doing impressions. And he's simply saying that, well, if I would now have to do impressions for this guy, it would be completely different than what I did previously. And he's kind of inferring the potentiality that there may even have been 3 versions of him so far. I also wrote with a friend who also said there's like several versions of, of Trump and of maybe of Alex Jones, of Musk. Something people can look into. I'm not really watching him a lot. And, I wish this wasn't a thing at all, but it certainly is interesting, especially here when he's sitting in his car and basically, how should I say, being distraught about Trump effing up and the whole Epstein list not being released. Although I really have to say that by now, it very much appears to me as if this whole thing is really just a drama and is complete diversion from any of the real things going on. Because as we can notice by now, you can drag this on for 5 years or 8 years in the media cycle. Nothing really changes, nothing really happens, except riling people up, whatever, to buy survival food on the one hand, to go crazy on the other hand. Yeah, as with all of these things, never wait for a savior, anyone to fix anything for you. To the best of your abilities, take your own steps.
I mean, I don't think I would say that he's been replaced. Like, I've known him for a while, and so I saw the gradual transformation of Alex over the years, and I think really what it comes down to is his drinking habits changed, because the dude used to be able to slam a bottle of scotch, like 1.5 liters of scotch, was nothing to this man, which is just kind of wild if you think about it. and I don't think he's drinking nearly as much anymore. Is basically the whole. That's like the main thing that's shifted. I also know a lot of people like Rob, right? He's his personal cameraman, who's known him for way longer than I have. I don't trust Rob, and his family, and I think they're decent people. But you can see how he has become more and more athletic. I think that's basically the thing that's changed in Alex Jones, is he was more and more athletic and less of an alcoholic. And he also that does something to you to drink like that and to get bigger. And he was emotionally stressed when he was kind of having his life torn apart, his family threatened, his business destroyed, etc. I think it's fun. Like, he's the kind of guy who loves to joke about the Bill Hicks thing as well. He thinks it's hilarious. And we've talked about like that's just the conspiracy theory. The actual truth is that he's a transgendered lesbian who's been pretending, to be a man. That's the real like he loves these things. So I mean, I feel like he would react slightly more differently to a lot of that stuff if it were somehow more true. I mean, I like the idea. I think we all do. I think he likes the idea of being Bill Hicks. Like, that would be really hysterical. That would be like super valuable for him, because then he'd have, another source of income. He'd be able to make money off of the Bill Hicks persona and everything like that.
What we do have, and what I had shown with the research by Matthew North, who then apparently vanished, maybe reappeared, or we don't know exactly, is the connection with the Sacred Cow Productions, which apparently was the same production company for Hicks and then Alex Jones, and maybe even Joe Rogan, or some kind of correlation here, which is interesting to say the least, but people have to look into this themselves.
You can definitely watch, let's see if I can find the footage, his Waco footage, right?
Talk about how
Which is
the
pretty
children huddled in
interesting.
the corner and how the ammunition that they had would kill them. All the rest of your garbage. You ought to be ashamed of your camouflage around.
And
when it comes time, you people are going to be brought to punishment. You know what I mean?
This is the one. We gotta get like a better recording that doesn't have all the music on it. But
I want you to assess me. I've assessed you, a smiley face slime ball that sits here in soft pedals and tries to placate the media.
Right. I mean, like, you can hear Alex Jones. You can see how he's gotten his more gravelly accent or voice, but he is like getting older, right? Like, he is 51 now, so it's hard to understand how young he really was at the time. And I think he looks, maybe it's kind of hard to understand. Like, he looks rather young, like Alex Jones, 1990 or something like that, like late 90s. You can see he looked kind of already pretty swole. So to me, he isn't. Oh, this is the wrong page. Hold on. He looked like he was 40 when he was in his 20s, right? Like, he's actually only like, what, 1974 or something like that is let's see, 1974, February 11th, like a week before my birthday, 1974. So he's 51 now, and that's hard to believe, because when you think about it, you think, okay, he's got to be like 65 or something like that. He doesn't look that old, but he doesn't look that young either, and he never looked that young. Like, he used to look already like kind of a grown-up, and I think a lot of people don't look like this anymore. Maybe he had less microplastics in his blood. I don't know what it is, but like, the dude obviously looks older at that point. And now I think he looks like the correct age at 51, because he's kind of like grown into his face. But to me, like, he looks 40, like even in his 20s. And you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the thing. And yeah, he used to be, before he drank a lot, and this is a good lesson to all men out there: don't overeat and don't drink. Basically, because look at this guy. If you just kept Mormon, bro, look at him. Just saying. All right, you also pulled up a video I can't show because I went to the page. It says,
what? No.
Live streaming recording is not available. Yeah.
Now that's a particular joke. Maybe just go on the channel itself.
Okay.
And see the lives, the recent ones.
Yeah, you can. Nope, not available.
It just says not available. What kind of a joke is that? Let me find this on my end just to see. No, but I don't
That's
see why
crazy.
it
So
shouldn't
this
be
is
there.
this
This
is
is
like
the Austrian.
Parliament, and we'll let
This
you
is
watch
the
the Parliament.
official. This is the official channel of the Austrian Parliament. Believe it or not. And the
Wow.
only reason why I brought this up. Let me see if the live stream is available here. It's not available. What a joke is that? So you can tell. So this is for Austria. Austria has a population of about 8 million individuals, let's say, out of which maybe 4 million vote or whatever it may be. Still, you could maybe assume there would be some people interested in this, but look at the view count. You have maybe 3 or 4K.
Well,
or
no wonder
1.5K.
they're not allowed to. They're not allowed to. They're not allowed to show it. You're not allowed to watch it. Oh well, here's one. Some of them are available, and some of them are not. That's really interesting. This one's available.
That's very strange.
This one's available. So which ones were the ones that weren't available? Let's go back. Maybe it's going to work now.
Maybe.
No. So this one,
37.
6 days ago, 37th is not available. So that makes you want to see those ones. Those are obviously the good ones.
Certainly. So I'm one of the crazy individuals, if I see this live, that potentially is tuning in just to listen for a few minutes to see what they're saying, because then you see, of course, politicians, or for the US, this would be the Congress, the lower house. So, well, in Austria, it's a bit different because in the US, no, it's actually similar. In the US, you have the lower house, the Congress, that is technically creating the laws, which then get passed by the Senate. And in Austria, you have the parliament, and then you have the so-called Bundesrat, which is like the federal council, where you have a smaller variant of the parliament, but that is constituted on the basis of the votes within the different federal states. So there's a different composition, but the upper house, technically it's the upper house, I think, but they don't have nearly as much authority. They can only delay something. But anyways, this is the parliament, so the Congress, where laws are actually being passed. And we have a new government that, again, has very low approval. You didn't see much of them, and then suddenly now, just before the summer, as you can see on the channel, they did like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days of, I don't know how many hours of session, which I think is kind of crazy anyways, because that's not a normal work day. Not that the politicians couldn't hack it, and anyhow, you only need the relative votes. You don't always need to sit in. But I find this is a strange format that then literally at 1 a.m, they are still streaming and talking from Parliament. But what I find most interesting is that the average view count, whenever I watched in the afternoon, was maybe about 30 individuals. So you have about a classroom of people, and this may even be political aides or whoever, who are actually watching the Austrian parliament. I'm not sure what to say about that, and I'm not sure if it would be any different in the US. That is the state of our democracy, or the interest in the goings-on of the Austrian parliament. We have more viewers right now by several X, so thank you guys for watching.
That's what we're going to say from now. We're more popular than the Austrian parliament. This guy could be Alex Jones. Okay, so now who's paying for the deception? Back to
Okay,
HIV.
so
This is the
oh yeah,
third time today. All right, okay.
yeah, this topic keeps recurring for some reason, or
Yeah.
different channels release something related to it. This is now simply about something that recently went through the media, which was like, oh wow, now we have some type of inoculation you can use 2 times a year, and then you will be immune against HIV or whatever it is. But again, of course, so far I haven't looked into the medication they're using, but anyone who would understand the basis of this, I'll just briefly mention the virology issue with HIV, similar as with corona, but then also the thing itself is called AIDS. That is acquired immune deficiency syndrome, and it can manifest in all million kinds of ways. Well, do you really think there will be one particular inoculation and then you will never have any immune system issue or detoxification system issue ever again? I doubt it. So this most likely may be a very amazing cash cow for people that for some reason believe this, or again, for all kinds of AIDS organizations that maybe then can push something new that probably will also be incredibly expensive. And at the same time, you can get someone clamoring for it and be like, oh, why shouldn't we spend another 10 million for this important medication for Africa, which most likely will not help them nearly as much as if the money was spent to help them actually, you know, have proper water supply and things like that. So yeah, big scam, if you ask me. The gift that keeps on giving.
It's like Benjamin Cumberbatch dressed as this guy. I don't believe him, but
Oh,
that
yeah,
guy could be
these two are amazing to watch. They are like, oh, I totally want to trust these guys.
All right, fair enough. Okay, and then do we get pseudo I store stuff I open? That's right. Okay, so that got us to where were we?
Very last one with Mike, Stellium 7.
Mike. Cool.
I just, of course, have to give a shout out to Stellium 7. He's recently done an interview. I still have to watch the whole of it, but this is very well produced on a channel called The Way Forward. As you can see, very nice studio setup. And Mike gets to tell his story. Of course, Stellium 7 with the petrified giants, petrified elephant mountain, heartstones, original OG hacker prints, with the book which he's going to release pretty soon, where I'm pretty sure we're all going to be talking to him. It's a great shirt. Yeah, it's a great shirt.
Dude, he has really fly clothes. The man lives in Javia in Spain, so like he's living in the right place to wear a shirt like that. But okay, you got to read his book for sure. And if you didn't already watch this, you know, you need to watch this. And if you haven't already seen it, we did an APM stream with him a few weeks ago, right? APM. Yes. Xirtus, and he had some really interesting stuff to say. What was it?
I love how confidently you're still doing web searches and expect anything relevant to show.
You know what? I'm doing it more and more, and hoping that eventually, like the IP address trackers will just say, okay, enough people are looking for it. We're gonna have a hard time hiding it. What was the most recent? Hold on.
It was APM. I would guess 2 weeks ago.
APM with the stream cream team? Stream cream team, maybe? No, this was the week before. APM philosophy memes, Ron Paul Maoism. That's it. Ron Paul Maoism. This one right here. We had, is it about half? There you go. Stellium 7's there. And he had a lot of interesting things to say. In fact, bringing up the spiral, what do you call it? The spiral thing.
All right, spiral. This actually, I brought it up. The spiral dynamics, which interestingly, whole math is also using, as we just discovered today. I wasn't even aware.
So very cool stuff there. So I would highly recommend also watching this just to see Stellium. I would say in his element, even though like this is outside of his element in a sense because he's supposed to be doing other talks. But you know, as someone who knows him, he knows all this stuff, and he's great at so many things. And it's great that he's doing videos on Titanology, as well as now his book talking about being the first arrested hacker. So would really recommend checking his clips out. And yeah, watch The Way Forward. Check out this new interview. It is a really beautiful set. That's true. They have like a really nice set, which I'm pretty jealous of, gotta admit. But Stellium 7 is his channel. If you're not already subscribed, definitely go check out Stellium 7's channel because he's done some incredible research into heart rocks and fossilized titans, and he goes around basically proving that these rocks have the same biological systems that you wouldn't expect in these, you know, we're told that these are just completely geological anomalies, but he can show you another way to look at it. So definitely check it out. Yes, Stellium. And then back to the Expedition 33 game, which is such a good game, I got to admit.
Yeah, it is incredible, and anyone who can just appreciate art, really listen to this track, I think it's well done. It's pretty amazing.
Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. Here's a bunch of music. Wow, you can listen to, you can see them recording. That's awesome. That's crazy. They have all of the music for the game. They have filming of them filming the music. You got to admit, there's something about this game because it's supposed to be just this sort of like, hey, it was super cheap and, you know, only 33 people worked on it or something like that. But it's clearly not just some indie game. This is some esoteric magical working that's been done here. And it's in the Final Fantasy style. It's super cool. It's super beautiful. It's super well done. It's super huge. It's a huge game. You can really spend dozens of hours playing it. I've seen Asmongold spend like 30 or 40 hours on the game at least, which is insane. He was spending like 10 hours a day on this game for a while. Here, let's see.
Yeah.
Just
And
boom,
the real
boom,
thing
boom.
is that the music is beautiful. The gameplay, if you like these turn-based role-playing games with combat, it's inventing on the genre, and just the graphic style is very consistent. That's always so important for me. In the interface, so yes, it's Unreal Engine, but even here, and I'm maybe a stickler for this, but even when you see the damage counters, you know, this has to be the right font, and they just manage all of that properly. So
yeah, it's pretty solid. It's a pretty solid game. And if you're not like super great at a live action game, you might be surprised that you're good at turn-based strategy game. If you don't play a lot of games, this is a good game to get into because you have time to think about how you move, and it's probably worth it for just about anybody to try this game. It's clearly really deep. Okay, Psychedelic Dervish.
this is just some music a friend recommended. If anyone after the show is like, oh, I just want to listen to some chill music, you can listen to some music.
That's pretty
That's it.
based. That's awesome. All right, everybody, you know that you can go to Raphael Comensi, go to comensi.at, where you can find the links.
All the links in the descriptions, all the Xirtus links in the description, the show links, the support links, everything should be there. If you have any question or can find something, just comment. Thank you so much, Andreas. We'll be back most likely in about 2 weeks. So what we'll do at the very end, actually, just to give everyone a good vibe, let's see. We can show this. I'm sure we've shown it at some point, but here we can take a look right here, and we'll send everyone off with that and then go to the outro. I send it to you in private chat.
Excellent. Here, let me pull this up right here. Boom, boom, boom. And Azora Festival, right? This is the Azora Festival in Hungary, where Raph is going to go. It looks like it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be all kinds of interesting, kind of the Hungarian equivalent to Woodstock. Or I don't know if that's the way to put it, but it's got some like eco wood. It's way better than Burning Man. Looks like a lot of fun. They're building like they're building stuff, man. It's going to be beautiful. Look at it. You can just see Raph in a field with a bunch of Euro hippies.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be building anything there. Except the castle and the astral, maybe. But yeah, so this is like the crafting thing, and then just zoom in a little bit or skip into it, just so you can see the people dancing and going crazy.
Well,
but yeah, of course, there's a lot to say about this, about these type of events and so on. But yeah, if you find a good event, you're with good people, you can have a pretty nice time. So
this does look really beautiful.
And you have the chance, which is the most important thing for me, that 24 hours a day there's music playing somewhere. So anytime you decide you want to get up and go dance, you can do that, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, this does look really like a lot of fun. So if you have the chance to go to Hungary, check out the Azora Festival and look deep into this, because obviously it's pretty sweet. There's all kinds of different music going on, so you will enjoy it. Excellent. Well, that's it. That's pretty good. We'll see you next time, man. And then 8 p.m. is later this evening. We'll see you again for a sequel to the Cream Stream team, I suppose.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. Again, all links in the description. Thank you, Andreas. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.
Peace.
Good viewer, watch Xirtus. Watch Xirtus.